Hello, I am Jadon White.
I'm Journey Wilson, and we are doing an interview of the original Blackfish script.
Okay, so you got some questions for me?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start off with, was there any big characters added or cut in the movie's original script?
Yes, and it might surprise some people, but Stuart, Aaliyah, and Violet were not in the original script. They were just completely new characters I wrote in, and George Batson was a super minor character. Just kind of a way to just kind of try and give it a sad ending, but it didn't really work.
So the big four was a change?
Yes, it was.
All right.
Yeah, they were last minute add-ons. She was last minute. No. The original script was done months before we started filming.
All right, so going off of that, what was the timeline to make this movie?
Well, I started the original script probably, now close to 3 years ago, because it was a year ago, last week I believe, that we started filming Blackfish Part 1. And so it's probably about 3 years ago I started writing the original scripts, and probably close to 1.5 years ago when I finished the final draft.
All right, so what is any big plot changes that switched up from the original script to the new one?
There was a character named Agent Murdoch, and he was going to be working with the resistance group. And as a matter of fact, up until like the very final draft of the movie, he was going to be a major character in it. And I don't want to get into spoilers for Blackfish Part 2, but a lot of his character attributes were put into another character we'll see in that.
Okay. Was there anyone else brought from a smaller role to a bigger role, or a bigger role pushed down to a smaller role?
Yes, George Batson is a big one because, as we can all agree, he was kind of the main focal point of the first movie. Well, in the original script, he was just going to be like some random resistance fighter who had about like 10-15 minutes of screen time. And he was going to be in the big final fight with Kent, who also was only going to have like 10 minutes of screen time up to that point. So, yeah, that would have just kind of ruined the ending because it would have been two people you didn't really care about fighting each other.
Anyone else?
Oh, yes. It's going to be a thing for a minute. There was a character in the original script who was a very, very major character that we had to shelve, and he will be in Part 2. I don't want to get into very specifics. Let's just say he has a similar dress code to Reaper. But he was shelved, and in Part 2, he's important, but he's not a major character. He's not in it a whole lot. He also got aged up. He was originally supposed to be in his 20s. Now the actor is in his 70s. And also, Agent Jessica Miller was originally going to be one of the main characters of the movie. And Jared Quill and Daniel Simmons, they were the two leads. And there was going to be no Reaper. He wasn't going to go under that alias.
Was there any big scenes that were cut?
Yes, there was a massive battle scene where the Resistance, their full force, attacked Outpost 14. And you were going to see Jared Quill and Agent Dugan battle it out. Who wins or not, I can't really say.
How many recastings did you have?
We had quite a lot. The whole idea is we had someone to play Boyle. Remember, he even showed up to set on I think it was our second day of filming. And he had to drop out because he didn't feel comfortable with the part. And then we ended up casting IH to play him over like 4 or 5 months into filming. And then on his first day, he just kind of blew us all out of the water. That was the day we filmed his fight with Aaliyah, so your character. And I was very impressed with him and his performance.
Me too. I think you worked very well. Okay. Going off of that, how were some of the cast members found?
All right. Well, let me see. Originally, Joseph Devine, who plays Thaddeus Barton, was going to play a resistance fighter who was going to be up through all the movies as a big character. And I found him at a homeschool group because I am homeschooled. She is sadly public schooled. So that's where I found him at. And it's also the same place where I found Ben Isaac and Emma Bailey to play Stuart Alec and Violet Connors. And I met you at an old job I had at Arby's. Try to remember, the very first time I saw you, you were working register. I just walked up and was like, "Hi, I'm Jadon." And you kind of acted like you didn't want to have anything to do with me.
And my dog chasing you out of my fence.
Oh, yes, that's right. I randomly went on a run and down from my grandparents' house and found out she lived right down the road because her dog jumped out of the fence and tried to chase me. And then was immediately distracted by another dog.
Yeah. Alright, so was any of the actors fired or did anyone quit?
Yes, sadly. We had someone to play George Batson, and he dropped out when we decided to rewrite the script. And then, let's see. Originally, Tristan Bennett, who plays Agent Dugan, his sister, Faith Bennett, was going to play Jessica Miller. And there's a difference with them. His sister is white. But also, her character was going to be much more major in the plot, and she was going to have a romantic fling with Jared Quill. But that never came around.
Was anyone else fired or quit?
Let me think. Some of the actors, like, we had someone to play an adult version of Daniel Simmons, who was shelved for the second movie. So he didn't exactly quit or wasn't fired, but his debut was postponed. And there was a guy who played Boyle who quit, and let me think. We had someone else, cannot remember who, was going to play a younger version of Jared Quill originally. And they couldn't be in it. And there was going to be a younger version of Jessica Miller, and the actress just never really came around the set, and so we had to cut those scenes.
Alright, was there any OG romances?
Well, there was the fling with Quill and Miller, but other than that, there was Elena Shallow was going to have a romantic interest in it. And if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I did it, it was going to be Daniel Simmons. Which, that story detail was cut. That will not be in part 2 of Black Fist.
Moving on, was there any OG characters that were switched into new characters?
Any OG characters that were switched into new characters? I don't understand the wording of that.
Was there any, like, they played an OG, like, in the OG script, were they playing a certain character, and then in the final script, they were playing a different character?
Yes. So, the character of Thaddeus Barton, again, Joseph Devine, was going to play this rebel fighter, and then eventually we switched into playing Barton because the guy I wanted to play Barton wasn't available. And if you look on Tristan Bennett's YouTube channel, I asked Tristan about it. I don't even know if he remembers this or not. But I asked him to talk to an actor who played in his movie Calamity and his movie The Ugly Duckling. His name was Jeffrey Cook. I wanted to see if he could play the part of Thaddeus Barton, because I really wanted Barton to have a beard. So, I mean, you can imagine that would be kind of weird now to see Barton with a beard.
Yeah.
But the actor wasn't available. So, I think it was because they were actually filming Ugly Duckling when we were going to start. So, yeah, he couldn't play the part, and so, yeah, Joseph Devine took it over and said he would do it. And again, George Batson was originally going to be played by my brother, but he dropped out of it, and we got Josh.
Better casting.
And Edwin Schaffner, who plays Arthur Kent, was originally going to be played by another guy also named Josh, who happens to be a friend of the first Josh. So that would have just been all sorts of confusing. And then...
Very.
I was originally looking for someone else to play Aaliyah, if you remember that. I was looking for someone who was blonde to play her.
I am blonde. Look at my roots.
Well, so originally we were looking for someone else, and it couldn't find anybody, and you kept saying, I really want to do this part, I really want to do this part, and then when you got the brown hair, you resembled Ben Isaac, who plays Stuart Alec, or played, because he cannot come back for part 2, and we are recasting him with a guy named Jonathan Sickmeyer.
You should have put that in the other question, sir.
My apologies.
Okay, so what would the future movies look like with the Black Fist if our OG script was not changed?
Well, originally there was going to be 4 movies. It wasn't going to be a trilogy. There was going to be 4 movies. I don't want to say what 2 of the titles are because we are still using 2 of those titles. But the one title was called Civil War. And I can get into some more plot points after you finish with your questions if you want. Just some ideas of what the original story was going to unfold like. This
was the last question.
Okay. Well, so your dog's being really weird. Anyway, so let me see. It would have been very, very different. Because there was originally going to be a whole 3rd faction involved with the war. And believe it or not, the movie was not going to begin with the Black Fist in control of the world. It was going to be, they were a United States intelligence organization who had ambitions of taking over, but hadn't really seen it through yet. But I thought that would kind of make them seem as less of a threat, because if they had already won, it kind of gives you that little hopeless feeling, like what can you do at that point? So, yeah, again, there was originally going to be an intelligence organization, and Barton was going to be shot, but it was not going to be by Stewart, because he was not in the original script. It was going to be by Miller. So, in the original script, Nathaniel Boyle was a loyal soldier of the Black Fist. He didn't run off to kind of distance himself from it. He wasn't disgusted with their work. He was proud of their work. He was proud that he abducted kids and made them agents. So, his whole thing was changed, but originally, how they cyberized people, they had this big machine underneath the facility that also ran on atomic energy, which was going to be how they destroyed the base. But, and Miller was going to be brought down there because she was investigating a traitor, and Barton was upset with her because she hadn't found anybody yet. And what ended up happening was he cyberized Boyle in front of her to say, if you fail me, that will happen to you. And so, in the very end of the movie, she was going to have a very, very brief encounter with Quill after she shot Barton. And she didn't shoot him because she was going to help Quill. She shot him because she wanted power and thought if she kills him, she can get the power he had. So, I mean, imagine if we did that with our final draft, how it'd be very, very different. Instead, Miller missing a head, Barton's missing a cylinder-shaped piece of his brain. So,
Boyle's also missing his head.
Yes, Boyle is missing his head.
You're welcome.
But yeah, Boyle was going to actually have a very similar death. And there was going to be a big fight between Jared and Dugan. And it was going to be a very dark ending. But again, you were going to have the final showdown between Kent and Batson that didn't really carry any weight. So, I think we can agree it was the right decision to make George more of a main focal point and build up that rivalry.
I love how the movie has turned out so far.
Yeah.
So, we have one final big question. Can you reveal anything of the Black Fist Part 2?
Everybody dies. Like, no one lives. 3rd movie, completely new characters, new bad guys, everything. You don't believe me, do you?
No.
Oh. Well, I guess if I'm going to reveal one thing from the movie, if I had to reveal one, either character or story point,
Come on, spill the tea.
there's no tea around here to spill. But I would say that we get to see Stuart kind of more take a frontal stance in the story. So he has to learn how to do things on his own now, because he will not have other people to lean on. Whether that means they die, like 10 minutes in, or whether they get separated or what, I mean, that's, you got to find that out for yourself. But
gotta watch part 2.
Yep, and the part 2 does have a subtitle, but I will be revealing that when the teaser trailer drops. And it is, it will be a lot more, it'll probably shorter than the first movie.
Good.
I thought you were happy with how the first one turned
I loved our movie, but Jadon, you know how I feel about long movies.
It's still going to be long, but it won't be near as long. But, let's see. I will expect, I mean, you cried when we showed part 1. And when we filmed George's death, because you were sitting out in the hallway with Joey's dog.
Don't talk about that.
You pinned it on Isaiah, but he was like, I wasn't crying.
I didn't want him to know that.
Well, I will say this one, you will probably cry more. There's a lot more sad things that happen in it. There's a little bit more humor as well.
Bring your tissues, people.
Yes. If you didn't cry for the first movie, you're going to have better chances for this one, for this next one. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but everyone dies. So, whether you want to believe me or not, it's up to you. Is there any other things you want to ask me about anything with future projects, anything with recasting Aaliyah Alec?
Not happening. Will anybody not be returning to these next movies from the original?
Well, Harmony's character, Miller, got her head cut off, so I don't expect her back. Boyle got his head blown off, so I don't want to expect him back either. George Batson's in little tiny pieces. And so is Kent, too, because he was right there by the explosion. Barton has a hole in his head, but we did see him again after that. So who's to say how he's back, if he's back? I could have just, thrown that in there and give no explanation to it ever. But no, we do have an explanation to that. That is a plot point in the second movie. Joseph Devine, who played Thaddeus Barton, will be returning. Harmony Quinn, who played Jessica Miller, she will not be returning. IH, who played Boyle, he will be returning as some extras, so you might recognize him with the face mask on. You might recognize him by his voice or something. Edwin Schaffner, who played Arthur Kent, he said that he may be interested in coming back as some extras, but Arthur Kent will not be back. And George Batson, Josh Gregory, who played him, he is very busy, so.
Any recasting needed?
Well, Stuart Alec will be recasted because Ben Isaac is not available to return, which I am very sad about that.
I am also very sad about that. It's very close to my little brother.
But I am excited to see how Jonathan Sickmeyer brings to this role, because he is, from what I have heard, he's acted previously. He's got some experience with it. And he comes from a family that does a lot of acting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he adapts the role of Stuart as he's gotten older. And Emma Bailey will be back as Violet Connors. I will be back as Jared Quill.
I will be back as Leah Alec.
Maybe.
Not maybe.
Joseph Devine will be back. I cannot say in what role or capacity. Tristan Bennett is returning to play Gerald Dugan, who is our main antagonist.
And we have some new ones, too.
Yes, we got some new actors. I made a post the other day. We have actors Silas Beard, Anna Bennett, and Jake Hayden coming on board. along with another guy. His name is Andrew, and if he's watching this, please forgive me if I mispronounce your last name. Basalomo? So I don't know exactly if I'm pronouncing that right, so I apologize if I'm not. So, yeah, they're all coming on board. We have a woman named Trisha Sickmeyer, who's all of her scenes are already been filmed.
She did amazing.
Yeah. Journey was intimidated.
Very much.
Aside from them, is there anyone else who's new coming on board? I don't think so. Oh, we have a man named he's a karate grandmaster. He actually trains me. Named Steve St. Pierre. He will be in the movie playing a important role.
Let me also say we have an amazing choreographer that teaches a lot of cool moves, and honestly, it's amazing to watch. I got some behind-the-scene footage, and I may be making a post soon.
All right. He did kick down a tree on set.
Yes, he did. That was very fun to watch.
Yeah. Which, that is on video as well, so I might post that eventually or send it to you to post.
We will also have some more special effects makeup. We
Yes,
have already done some. Some more will be added.
Yeah. And aside from that, do you have any questions, like any future, from what you know, is there any future romantic stories with any of the characters?
How much do you want me to spoil?
Well, without spoiling it, will there be?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
Can I say who one person will be in?
Who one person will be? So, like, not who the other
Not
person...
who the other person is. Can I say who the one person
As
is?
long as it isn't, you know who. The guy with the glasses, you can't say...
Oh.
I have no idea why you started laughing, but...
I don't know.
Breathe Journey?
This happens a lot on set, too.
Yes, it does.
There's many, many bloopers of just me and the guy who plays George Batson just giggling and giggling. So, if you watch the blooper reels, you'll notice.
Oh, yeah.
A upcoming romance, if this wants to be cut out, you can cut it out, but an upcoming romance will be involved with me again. So.
You heard it here, folks. She's looking for love.
Looking for love right here. I'm kidding.
It may or may not be Quill. Oh, no. In all honesty, it's Barton. I bet. He's got that voice, you know.
You'll have to watch part 2 to find out.
Yes, you'll have to watch part 2 to find out. Or maybe even part 3.
Maybe
Who knows?
part 3.
Who knows when it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, other than that, do you have any other questions for me?
I do not.
All right. Well, I have one for you. If you could change one thing about...
George Batson is still alive.
I was going to say, if you could change one thing about Black Fist Part 1 that didn't drastically affect the story, what would you have changed?
George Batson is still alive.
That would drastically...
Okay. My little brother gets less hurt.
Well, he does get pretty hurt in that.
Yeah.
Stabbed with an axe.
Yeah, my little brother gets less hurt. I'm protective.
Yeah, what's really cool is, like, on set, you get, like, you feel like a really, like, brother-sister connection between Ben and Journey. I don't know.
In reality, I never talked to this dude.
Yeah, I don't think they've talked since their last day of filming together.
I have not.
Yeah, I've not talked to him since then yet. I've talked to his parents, which I still gotta give him his pay for his role.
Very sad that he will not be returning, but very excited to meet the new one.
Yes. And he begins filming in 2 weeks. So, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. At which will you be able to be there?
I will.
All right, because we got a lot to film. You get to meet your new brother, who is, I think, as tall as you are.
All right.
But I know he's very excited. He was texting me about it last night.
Okay. I'm very excited too.
All right, so this was the Black Fist Part 1, what could have been the script interview. Thank you, Miss Journey Wilson, for helping me.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And we'll see you in the future. And Black Fist Part 2 comes out, we don't know the exact date, but it will come out in 2025.
Yep. Also, this is the very scary dog that chased him.
He didn't chase me. He ran out to me and I stopped and stared at him. But yeah, that's him, all right. Walker, Texas Ranger. All right, so I will see you all later.
All right.